Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. We're back on the dev server and it's time to have a look at another ground vehicle that is coming in the next major update. This is the Pz.38 NA, which is slightly different to the other PZs which are in the game. You basically have a bunch of them which are pretty similar to each other. You got the Pz.38 here, and then you've also got the TF, which is over here too. These are probably the closest vehicles to it. You can see here the general outlook. This one's a little bit more beefy. And then, of course, you have the Swedish ones as well, the STRV M41S2, and of course the S1, which are very similar. So what is the difference between this one and the other German Panzer 38Ts? Well, the main difference between them is this vehicle has access to rank 2, and being a light tank at rank 2 means that it gets access to scouting. One of the things that was unfortunate for the German tech tree is the Puma just being way too good and basically going up in BR over and over and over again, meaning that it's now at 3.3, even though it started a lot lower. This meant that Germany didn't really have a lower scout option apart from this, the Sonderfahrtgestell 901, the Mini Tiger as it's known. So since this one is kind of an event, well, not really an event vehicle, but they bring it back every so often. It's not like a standard vehicle that's always around. The Panzer 38 TNA is one of those vehicles which kind of fills a gap which used to be filled by something else until it was found to be insanely good. So this just gives another light tank option for the Germans at a lower tier, meaning that it would be nice for newer players to get into the scouting mechanics at an earlier area. So at rank 2, battle rating 2.3, the Panzer 38 NA has access to the 37mm KWK 38. Now this gun is okay. It has access to 2 APC rounds. Basically, they're very similar in what they do. One has slightly more velocity, and also one has slightly more pen. So they're not hugely different at the end of the day, but will be slightly different depending on what you want to use it for. And then also you have the APCR round, which gives you more penetration. Usually if these APC rounds pen, they're going to do a decent damage, maybe take out like maybe half of a tank or a full tank, whereas the APCR, it'll pen more, but it'll do a lot less damage. So we're not looking at a vehicle here which is just going to be able to do a ton of damage. Two different vehicles. It does actually have access to a kind of light on the top. I wonder if they'll ever actually activate these things, because there's a ton of vehicles which are kind of sat around with it. But it has the 37mm. It also has a coaxial 7.92. No pintle mounted gun or anything like that, so won't be too good against aviation, but at least that exists for it. It does have a 4-man crew, 2 in the turret and 2 in the hull, so if its turret gets popped, it still survives, which is quite nice. Usually I would say the survivability on this vehicle isn't great though, you know, only 30mm of armor on the front. This one is definitely one of those vehicles that you hide behind a rock or hide behind like something, then you use the binoculars to be able to scout vehicles, and then once you're in a good position and once your allies are in a good position, you pop out and then you know, plink them with the vertically stabilized 37mm. That's kind of the way to play this thing. It also has a bunch of ammo in the back of the turret. No first stage ammo stowage on this thing though, so I'm guessing this would be the first part which kind of fills, but at the same time, it might actually be this part because that's where the loader is. We'll have to test that going forward. It does have a 220 horsepower engine, which is quite nice on the machine, only weighs about 11 tons, and also has the transmission in the front, which means that it can actually go backwards at a decent rate. 8.8 kilometers an hour is okay at this lower rank, and also the forward mobility is really good as well. The profile of the machine, it's very flat on the front, so just basically aiming anywhere, most rounds are going to go through it. And since you start going up against some pretty big monsters, especially at 2.7 or 3.0, this thing will get eaten alive. This thing can see Shermans and stuff like T-34s and stuff, and it's just kind of nuts, meaning that you'll have to take a passive role at dealing with those vehicles. But with the scouting and also with the artillery, you'll be able to do that going forward. Being at 2.3 though, it is at a weird point, because this is kind of the problem with the German tech tree. A lot of vehicles over the years have been moved around in BR, which means that you don't actually have a crazy good 2-3 lineup. You have the Stug.38, and that's pretty much it. You do have a 2.0 in the Panzer IV F1. You do have some 2.7s as well that you could run with it, but there's nothing which really, screams good lineup at 2.3. So that kind of hurts the vehicle's usefulness, because at lower tiers, lineups matter a lot more, because more people spawn in, and also less people get to the power positions quickly. So that is something to kind of take into account for the vehicle. But generally, it's something that's going to hurt it, especially when you compare it to like the 3.3 German lineup, which is super fun, and also some other ones. You can hear the good old crew voices. The vehicle is different from the Panzer 35 and 38 though. It does look kind of different, obviously a different model, and you can see that engine actually putting in a lot of work, how quick it is compared to previous ones. And the reverse, so you can see it's pretty decent. So let's say you're like hiding in a position like over here, and you want to like pop out to get a shot off. So you see the T26, you use the stabilizer, pop out and then back, and then you can just keep doing that again. The amount of time it takes to get to -9 is super quick on the vehicle, so you can reposition super quickly too. It's probably not going to be as good as stuff like the Stuart at doing it, but it's definitely a decent equivalent at sorting that issue out, which will be quite nice for it. So for me, I look at this vehicle and I just think, you know what, it's a little bit of fun. It's another one of these Panzer 38 chassis, which if it pens, it does a lot of damage, but if it doesn't pen, it's going to have a harsh time. And that's pretty much like all of these chassis. Like, they have a ton of decent uses because of the scouting and also because of the artillery, but you're kind of limited sometimes, especially when people just start rushing at you, which can make it a little bit hard. Also, at the same time, might as well just use this opportunity here. They changed the sound of artillery in the game as well. So you can hear it coming in. It sounds pretty cool. I'll just let it play for now. Pretty cool, isn't it? Like, it sounds pretty nice. So yeah, that's another little addition to look forward to when it comes to the new update. So, a fun vehicle. It'll be nice to play in Spade. Wish I had a better lineup, but at the same time, maybe you could run it at 2.7, but you're just kind of begging for trouble at that point. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Millie Draper, Juan the Panda, Nick R. Cupila, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Merciless Reaper, Orange Tail, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Moxie B. Young, Peter Grayling, Jerry Provolt, Bareen, Alan Hacker, Sem Arslan, Uncle Bean, Derek R. and Lafouche for supporting the channel.